Do you know what your partner's up to when you're away and they're all alone?
No, what?
They're listening to the Screw podcast, of course.
What's that?
Sit back, relax, and listen.
You're an orgasm addict. You're an orgasm addict. Sneaking in the back door with dirty magazines. So your mother wants to know what all the stains on the jeans. And you're an orgasm addict.
Thanks for tuning in to the Screw with Felicia Rose and A-Love. Hi, A-Love.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm hot. It's hot.
Yeah.
It's very hot, and my air conditioner doesn't
Yeah,
work.
you're extra hot.
For you, like, you scent fetish people out there, like, what? Those pits are.
Yeah, we actually got a break from like that extreme heat this week in New York, which was very nice because I love the summer in the city, but when it's that stifling subtropical, if I want to be in New Orleans, I'll go to New Orleans. I don't want to go in Manhattan and just be swamped the whole time, You show up to the place you're heading and you're literally wet. And like, if you have a vagina, sitting in wet clothing is not good for it, So like, there's just so many. Right. I literally bring spare clothing with me when I have to like go somewhere that requires walking because I get so wet.
Oh yeah,
it's awful.
If you commute anywhere in New York, like I always, folded up my dress shirt and my tie really nicely and put it in my backpack, and then like went to work in like a t-shirt that inevitably I would have to put in a plastic bag and bring home with me
because it's wet.
Because it's wet.
Exactly.
wet t-shirt contest.
That's what I used to do with my good shoes, and now I realize thank fuck for just the new generations changing the way that. First of all, they don't iron their clothes, and also they wear sneakers with everything now. And like they wear like dad sneakers, like New Balance, like good for your back sneakers with like a nice dress. And I'm like, that's perfect. I'm not even bringing a change of fucking shoes in my bag anymore. I'm just showing up in my fucking sneakers and my nice ass dress. And that's how I do it. I don't care anymore.
There you go. Yeah. I always wondered how like, and certainly I'm guilty of this. If I had the money, taking a cab like to a meeting to avoid like being drenched in my suit. But like, when you would have these meetings and outside companies would come to visit you and shit, like I'm like, how do they look like they didn't sweat at all?
They cabbed.
They cabbed.
Yeah.
They cabbed. Fucking. So I just wanted to take a quick minute to thank all of our listeners and followers. We were going to celebrate this, but shit happens. But we hit the 200,000 download mark. And like, I really wanted to like tell everybody I really, appreciate like what you've done to keep us going.
So for the record, we're on camera together and I just went, really? To Aaron? And that's why he said, yeah. Because it's hard for me to believe that.
Thinks nobody's you don't think anybody's listening to us. That's been the thing for like years. And I'm like, no.
You know what I want is I want more of my actual customers to listen. Because the ones that do, I love them. And I recently, someone listened, that's one of my customers, and they sent me a video of them fucking their pocket pussy, like, vulva-esque thing. It's like in between a pocket pussy and a real doll. It's just kind of like the hips and like the vulva and stuff. But either way, it's like a half real doll. And they sent it to me, and like my video was laying on the mons while they were fucking it. And I was like, did you listen to my podcast? Because that shit is so hot. And I explained that on my last or whatever episode it was. And so if more people listened that were my customers, we could all have a lot more fun here, Let's do this.
Oh, my, totally could.
So that's a roll call. I mean, I need to actually say it on my pages, but, I think it's hot when people quote the podcast. I'm like, yeah, you like me. That's nice. Or you like Aaron. That's fine too. Hopefully you like both of us, but
hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, I like being quoted. It
It
feeds my shigo. Imagine what? What did you say?
Imagine having to shut your ears off for half of the podcast, you know?
Yeah. Oh, and if it's something that needs to be articulated well, that's most of the podcast because I'm just over here quiet as you explain things
Yeah.
in big boy words that I don't know.
Big words.
Let's not pretend like we didn't just have a technical issue. So I don't really know where I left off in this conversation. It's probably 14 disjointed thoughts at this point, but either way, listen to the podcast and be a customer so that you know how to make me wet. I mean, if not, it's fine. I know how to make me wet, but you know, I think it's always nice when like a customer does something that I'm like turned on by, you know, makes the work die.
Example?
Makes the work die.
Example?
Like someone
you-
fucking their pocket pussy with a video of me on top of it, you know, that's hot.
Oh my God. Wait. So like, how does that
Okay,
work?
so
How is
he
that
had
set up? Describe it.
It wasn't just like the fleshlight thing. It was an actual like, it was there from like the belly button to like the top of the thigh with a pussy in there. You know, it was like a piece of a body. And
Okay.
on the Mons, they laid the phone with my video playing and they fucked the pussy while I'm on, like I'm visually stimulating them. And that's hot, you know? Like it's not
So
my pussy you're fucking, but I may as well be there, you know?
But your pussy was in the video.
I don't know if my pussy was in the video, actually. I think it might have just been my top half.
Okay, well that works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care what you're watching of me. You could be watching me do something benign, like you could be watching me wash a floor. I don't really care. But I was your visual stimulation, and he was fucking a toy, and I think that's hot.
So-
It's the best of both worlds.
Was this in response to you saying you liked like those videos on the podcast?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you listen to the podcast, you'll do things that turn me on instead of just, you know, not that that's,
and hopefully
as a customer, that's not your job, right? Your job is not to turn me on.
Right,
It's for me to
sure.
turn you on. But if your love language is to turn somebody on, then listen to things I like and do them. And that will turn me like,
Right.
I like for you. Nothing makes my pussy wetter than getting money. And specifically getting money when it's something you want me to spend it frivolously. You know, if you send me money for like Botox, which I've never gotten, but if you did, infinite wetness. That wasn't just deployed for me to get money for Botox. I'm just giving examples of, you know, things that turn me on. Pocket pussies being fucked. I love a cum tribute where I'm in the scene. Like if I'm on a big screen TV in your house, super hot. I think that's super hot.
Ooh.
Money where you want me to spend it on myself and not my bills, super hot. I like it when you want receipts of it too. Like some people sent me money for sushi last week and they were like, we want photos of the sushi you're eating. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, you do. And I'm gonna, because you're requiring it, now I can't spend that money on my utility bill. I'm gonna get the fucking sushi. And I did. And I liked it. Yeah. So I'm just saying if you are a customer and podcast listener, you're in a better position when it comes to possibly making my pussy wet.
Oh, wow. And that's kind of good advice for those that aren't your customers yet.
Yeah, exactly. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
Just like me.
Just like you. Fuck. You're so quick today.
It's all the Celsius I'm drinking because I have no energy. So.
Well, you know, whatever works.
It doesn't really, but I try.
Yeah, well, the wonderful marijuana roaches that I've managed to put together are my energy for today.
Nice. That's nice.
Yeah, a little roach.
I smoked a little more
roach
weed
goes
this
along.
week than I had been in a while. I think it's because I dealt with the loss of an animal last week, so it like, and I was like home alone filming, and I love filming, and I love alone time after, and I also like not feeling sober. But it was really funny because I ate an edible one of the nights, and then I ate too much of it because I'm not used to edibles, you know. But shout out to Wrestle Buds, super good edibles. But I ate too much of one, and then I also smoked and I also drank, which again, like I really haven't been doing most of this stuff on like a regular basis anymore. It used to be my normal, but not lately. And I did all of that. And then I went into my bed and then I had a fucking panic attack because I thought somebody was breaking into my house, and I have cameras, so I could see in the cameras that nobody was breaking in. And I still was like having this paranoid. And I was like, oh, this is a reminder. This is why I don't do too many edibles when I do an edible. I just eat a little bit at a time because my paranoia was fucking crazy. Oh my God. So yeah, so that's Felicia and her drug binge for the week.
I've gotten pretty used to edibles. I don't think they do that to me anymore.
That's good.
Yeah, you know, like I did used to be worried about them, you know, like just, you know, because controlling, like you can tell that you took 2 puffs, but like maybe like that little edible concentration you had a little bit more than the one you took earlier, you know, so you take another one and then like, whoa.
yeah, that was what happened. Is I ate a bite and then I ate another bite, and then an hour later I ate another bite, and that other bite was unnecessary. Also, be careful because you keep doing this.
Oh yeah, you might hear me go in and out because
he's sucking a dick at the same time as recording a podcast.
That would be a podcast, right?
It would be a podcast, actually. You know what's funny is all of the different ideas that I had for the last like 15 years for podcasts and interviews and stuff. People are out there doing all of them. And it frustrates me because I'm just too lazy to have done them myself. And it's like all of these cool. So what I was going to say is that's already a podcast. Like somebody's already sucked a dick on a podcast. And that's frustrating because I wanted to be the one sucking a dick on a podcast, you know?
Right.
It's all right.
I'm sure there's people that have been spanked on a podcast.
Everything. There's like 3 million podcasts now, and like everybody that has an OnlyFans page has a podcast now, which is great. But like all of the shit that I've been too lazy to do myself is now being done. And this is just my way of telling everybody, don't wait to do the thing. Just do the fucking thing. Start doing it. You don't have to have the right equipment. You don't have to have the right people. You don't have to be in the right place at the right time. Just fucking begin. Just do it.
Yeah.
So that you're not like me at almost 37 years old going, damn it, all of my ideas are being done. You know, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like, you know, time is not kind to idea makers. You know, eventually something comes up with. But, you know, like to contextualize that, because, you know, I love to put it in adult terms. How hard is it? You know, like I was telling somebody about this the other day, because, you know, we're talking about like entrepreneurship and like, you know, running your own businesses and things like that. And, you know, there's a wealth of really great ideas out there. Unfortunately, like getting the resources to start ideas is tricky. It's convoluted, it's expensive, but the wonderful thing about podcasts is it is pretty low cost. And if you have something to say, you should say it. Like, again, a nod to us still being here, still recording, still getting downloads, still taking on new.
Do we still have things to say though? Or have we said them all?
No, we still have shit to say. We are gabby, opinionated bitches, let me tell you. So we still have shit to say. And you know what? And I did want to talk about this a little today because, you know, I had a really profound conversation with my partner last night when we were talking about, you know, different locations and what it's like for queer people in like a city versus like a second city, right? Like a Boston versus a Worcester, or a New York versus an Albany, or whatever, right? And like, or like, you know, states that like their biggest cities are the same size as other states' second cities, right?
Sure.
And this kind of, you know, kind of bar of, I'll call it a bar of shame, you know, and we do talk about shame a lot, but shame has, you know, a lot of really nuances to it that we don't always realize. And the conversation is always about how do we live like, you know, a proud, happy life where we're not constantly feeling like we're having to fight for something, or, you know, and I acknowledge we do always have to be fighting for something. It's a tough fucking world out there. But how do we also work on living a like healthier, more prideful, vibrant existence where we're not constantly in the position of like kind of defending ourselves against oppression and oppressors, where the conversation, even amongst like organizations, queer organizations, there's not a lot of like queer joy. And I think that's kind of what I'm talking about, is how are we establishing queer joy in the community, right? When you go to like an LGBT center, you're inundated with like safe sex materials, you know, do you need shelter? And we need all of those
Sure.
things, but we need something else at this point. You know, when I look on the apps and I'm at the bars and in the community, there's still, the bar has been set so low, and I do still think that that's a lot about shame and not living in a prideful, healthful way, because it is so hard. But you know, there's all these organizations like getting millions of dollars under like queer issue name, and we don't have really great communities established where it's not just about your
Issues.
local issues, right?
Right.
You know, like
Both things need
how
to
do we,
exist, because without
right,
one there's more of the other. You know, you can't have, you if you don't have community spaces and safe spaces and fun spaces and spaces for people to do creative things and to explore creative outlets and to have hands-on experiences, then
right,
boredom leads to more of those other things that lead to then the need for an issues based LGBT community center, right? And it's like,
right.
I'm not saying that, you know, the solution to like drug issues or addiction is fucking, you know, a
Just be
craft
happy.
night, okay?
No,
But we
no,
know that the availability of just being in spaces that make you feel normal and doing things that, you know, not every single queer event needs to be like, you know, flog the fag, you know what I mean? Like
right,
there should be more, there should be an abundance of not only just the, you know, the resources that people need, but also the community at large. It needs to be, we need to have more bars, more fun, more events, more meetups, more gatherings, and they don't all
right.
have to, they shouldn't all, I mean, listen, if all of your meetups and gatherings can have a fundraiser on the back end, fucking amazing, sure. But
Absolutely,
not every
absolutely.
single thing, like there needs to also be things where people are allowed to stop thinking about the things that they have to think about every single day. You know, like the, like
Absolutely.
if you are living in a queer body, especially in a, you know, especially if you are a part of another marginalized community, this is your everyday reality. Do you have to
Right.
be a part of that every, you know, you're waking 24 hours a day, or can you turn off
Right.
that feature, if you will? Like, can we all
Well,
just have a minute to breathe?
and I'm gonna be honest. I do think part of that is like we have like kind of shirked any kind of emphasis on pleasure, right? And I do
Yeah.
also mean sexual pleasure. I see this kind of weird heteronormalizing of kind of queer relationships that frankly feels like a desexing. And I'm saying this for a very specific reason, because like you go out into the community and sure, there's all these LGBT conferences and you can like look on the media and you can see this really great representation and people are being more gender nonconforming and all of these things, but the everyday lives of the majority of the queer population don't get to indulge in this level of freedom. And you know, our main source of entertainment as a queer community right now still seems to be predominantly drag. And I'm not hating on drag, but drag has also a very desexed component to it
Mm-hmm.
of like entertainment, and it's not explicitly or exclusively a queer thing, right? And I say all this because I noticed like after many years, look, the first time I went online as a queer person was gay.com and like Yahoo, like chat rooms and stuff like that. And it was still a time where you could argue for a level of like sex pot, like something in between, like, hey, wanna fuck, yes, no, and like, I want a relationship.
Right.
We've lost the middle ground of kind of fun, single, queer exploration? Why are we only like allowing ourselves a quick hookup or marriage? There's definitely a whole plethora of life in between, and those are the kind of things I'd love to see us build upon. Look, we have all sorts of reasons that like we don't, it's going to take many years before there's mass representation of like positive queer characters that any young boy in like Illinois cornfield can see, right? Or girl. Like that's we're not there yet, and we're not going to be there for a while, especially with the back and forth with backlash and all this nonsense. But in the interim, there seems to be a level that we've accepted where like bars and hookup sites and whatever are what we do, however dissatisfying it is, until we find the one or whatever.
Sure.
Like this should not be the experience. And I do think a lot of that is still coming out of this like shame-based reality that like we may have like this acceptance on certain levels of like, when we get married and our relationships are honored and we set up house, but do those people ever get to talk about their sex life? Do they get to feel pride over what we do in bed? Like, do you get to feel happy about it? Or is it still just this prevailing thing where like, okay, well, if you're a together gay person, everybody loves it. Oh, we love gay couples. Oh, they're so great. Blah, blah, blah. Pete Buttigieg, like, but are we still like, we're like shirking some level of our sexuality to have this image of something that like, I swear when we were all teenagers, we said, God, look at the relationships our parents have. They don't seem that happy.
Right.
And like I'm of the divorce generation when the number went to like 51%, of couples were getting divorced, and I don't think we want to emulate that. And part of that is like the pleasure principle and not retrofitting ourselves into this construct of a lifestyle that isn't for us on some level. I'm not saying long-term relationships aren't for us. Of course they are. But like, why can't we develop the things we want to as individuals? There's this constant pressure. And, the hookup thing, the bar has become so low because of some of these reasons, I think, where it's like, what you'll hear is this isn't a dating app or this isn't whatever. And like, but this isn't just a like top, bottom, yes, no. There's no expectations of getting to know you.
Well, it's also not a glory hole.
Right. Exactly.
Like there's
it's not a glory hole.
There's a middle ground where people are allowed to live, right? It doesn't have to be, I need to find a husband. It also doesn't have to be, I need to find a hole. It could be something in between that.
I think it's become a like, if you can't beat them, join them kind of mentality, which is why I was bringing up the early days where it's like, if I didn't want to put up with, somebody talking to me this way or saying this, like in general, you could change the conversation. And now it's like, if you do any pushback on what the new norms are, it's like, fuck you. And I don't actually think people even want that. I think people have just become used to it. And that lack of connection is a roll with the punches. Like it's a very like, and it feels like we're training the next subsequent generation to put up with it.
Well, I mean, the next generation is like sexless. So, or at least that's what studies are saying or whatever. So it's that I don't even understand how that even evolved, but I'm sure there's like some interesting timeline that we could look at that kind of goes over why the younger generation has absolutely no interest in sex in like a general sense. It's very interesting, and it's very
right. I mean, this is a population,
which is, and it's also probably creating a little bit more frustration in the older generations who are like the people that are looking to just hook up. It's like, well, that's not an option for a lot of people. So it's probably frustrating to try to, find your twink when your twink doesn't want to be twonked,
Exactly. And I mean, look, it's the pleasure activism side of me that says, I understand that I feel like there was a grand compromise when we said things like queer marriage and we brought it about in a way that it was court ordered, and like culture is like in many ways still not there. And I mean for us, I mean for the queer community, like we haven't caught up with like how to do this in our own queer way. There's still a lot of emulating, you know, from like wedding planners to whatever. And again, I'm not saying don't have those things,
Sure.
but we need to queerize it a little bit, because all we're going to end up is with those same divorce numbers that like our counterparts have
Yeah.
on some level, you know?
I do think that there is a little more, you know, especially because we're in the information and the wrong information age right now, where, you know, people are seeing more options being represented, say like on TikTok, for example, with, you know, swingers and non-monogamy and,
Sure.
you know, successful relationships that are doing non-monogamy and good, you know, healthy examples of say open relationships, or I can't think of the word, but you know,
chosen family as well. I'm seeing represented.
Yeah.
You know, like I know a lot of people probably watched Jane the Virgin in real time, but I've been watching it like on like speed watch, and the show is one of like the best ideas and concepts of like chosen family and what it means, and like, you know, and yes, a slightly heteronormative way, but in a way that like, you know, shows that times are changing. Families look different. Relationships look different. People are different. There's like one character that she's dating who comes out that he's bisexual, and they discuss all the like kind of issues that come up with a man and a woman being together when the man says he is bisexual versus a woman saying.
That's funny because Sex in the City does that too. I find that a lot of these tropes are done by Sex in the City, and so lately all I want to do is like end a conversation on, you know, with like one of her questions that she asks, like, can people really be happy in a monogamous relationship, or are we all just waiting to fuck the person we're not supposed to, you know, that kind of thing. Like the last episode I watched, she was just like, so the question is, can there be sex without politics, or is all sex political? I was like, hey, we had that conversation like a couple episodes ago. Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Sex in the City raised me, and there were, you know, we all know exactly who I wanted to be like when I got older. So, anyways.
Well, and I think that there's like, and it's funny because Jane the Virgin does a spoof of Sex in the City,
See,
where she sits down and tries to write like her, and like, but it's an interesting question, and the reality is there's not one answer. And I think that's all I'm getting to.
Yeah,
I want
everybody's different.
Community to accept there's multiple routes to pleasure in a person's life, and we have to allow, without judgment, for those things to happen. Otherwise, we're no better than the ones that said, hey, your wrist is too limp, or you need to walk a little bit more macho, or like you're too butchy, girl. Like, we're trying to socially control like things that are a part of us, you know?
Well, I was gonna say that. I mean, at the end of the day, everything that we try to emulate or do or want to, you know, pursue is 9 out of 10 times based on what society has pressured us to think is the way that it's supposed to be, which is why I mentioned the, you know, this new TikTok age or whatever, because we're able to see that just because society, the overwhelming majority, is telling us get into a relationship, get married, and have children, there's a gajillion people that are living outside of what that looks like, and they're enjoying themselves and they're having a good time and they're doing it in a healthy way. Not everybody is punishing themselves just because they're doing something that society said they're not supposed to do, right?
Right. And what I would love is for that to trickle down a little bit to everybody, you know, like, and that's not just about a person seeing it, right, and believing it. It's about being in an environment that supports it, you know? And I think we've gotten over the years away from like little queer villages and queer neighborhoods. And I think it's been to our, you know, detriment. I think we need, I'm going to take you to Montreal next summer for Gay Pride, by the way, because Montreal has one of these like thriving old school queer villages, and when you have something like that, you have an environment. And New York used to have a lot more of this than it does these days. But
Right. Like when you lived in
sur-
Chelsea in the day. You know?
Right, exactly. When you're finding yourself supported by seeing other queer people in a community that feels safe, that has not just services, but has, you know, there's like 3 bathhouses in this neighborhood. And like, you know, we need to do better with these kind of like pleasure things for women, most certainly, you know. But in some like smaller areas, you will see, you know, the quintessential dyke night at the bathhouse. And that's great. I think, you know, the moral of the story is, wouldn't it be great to have these like gay neighborhoods that had a museum on the history of queer folks, have like, you know, sex shops that can like help educate you on like the mechanics of queer sex. All of these things are the things that add up to like people just wanting to stick it in you on a on a hookup app, or just not really knowing how to be queer. We are at a stage where like, no, there's not one way to be queer, but there's a lot of information that is out there on, if this is the way you feel queer, this is how you can do it healthily, successfully, and like maximize your pleasure.
I also think that there should be sex shops that teach people that have heterosexual sex how to have sex too, because let's be honest, that's not a thing, and they don't know how to fuck. So,
yeah,
I mean,
no, I agree. Like, you know, the broader conversation, especially for us, is always that
every
sex
Starbucks
education
should have a
is
sex
lacking.
education in the back. Agreed.
Well, they just hired the Chipotle CEO.
Chipotle.
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 Yeah, could you imagine that? Like, I'm married to a Latin. All right, Chipotle. CEO is now working for Starbucks, so maybe he'll take that advice and, you know.
What does that have to do with anything? He knows how to wrap a good burrito. So.
No, but like,
Add some more meat.
Add some more meat.
Throw some more meat. Oh, I'm getting hungry.
There you go.
I've been very hungry today. I had multiple breakfasts. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
Well, I mean, if you're hungry, you're hungry.
Yeah.
Right?
It is. Yeah. I see my doctor again on Friday. He's going to be like, how did you gain weight since last time I saw you? Thought you were on a weight loss journey. I'm going to be like, I ate 4 breakfasts the other day. Aaron said, if I'm hungry, I'm hungry. So I ate.
Oh, sure.
No blame you.
No, but I think what do they always say about, and look, I'm horrible at this. I'm with somebody that gets hangry if they don't eat, but you know me. I'm not like a huge food prioritizer. It takes a lot for me to feel hungry.
No, I'm always hungry, but like today I couldn't satiate the itch. I just had to keep eating.
That's how I feel about my butthole since I have had this hernia. There's an itch that hasn't been scratched in ages.
I hate this conversation. I went to it to. I was just thinking about scallion cream cheese, and now we're talking about hernias.
See, I'm putting you on a weight loss plan.
Thanks. Yeah, just disgust me every 5 seconds. Thank you.
Make sure you tell your doctor that as well.
I'm gonna go hang out with you for a month, and while you yap about your hernia, I will not eat, not once.
It's aggressive. Let me tell you. I don't sit upon anybody.
I was just looking into the computer screen, and you in this moment look like Matt Cardona, which if you're a wrestling fan, you'll know who I'm talking about. But yeah, that's so funny. You just looked like Matt Cardona well, you still kind of look like, yeah, it's the hat. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm pretty tanned lately as well. Living in the Southwest has done.
I like how you're flexing your arms for me. That's not why you looked like Matt Cardona, but okay.
So I was at this like cruising spot at this park
fun.
last night. Yeah, I mean, I'm not there to do cruising, mostly there to just like chit chat, you know.
What? Who goes to the cruising spot to chit chat?
A 46-year-old that knows exactly.
I went to the cruising spot to watch the young whippersnappers engage in sexual activity. It was refreshing to see. his little butthole puckered in a nice way. And then I went home. I got myself a croissant.
But you know, if that was only what was waiting for you in the bushes, and I think that's why, like, in general, I don't do it, because
Let's write a play, Waiting in the Bushes, and it's just
Waiting
about
in the Bushes.
gay men popping up from the bushes waiting to suck your dick.
I mean, it's so funny. Like, look, it was a Tuesday night, and I've been to this park before. And
Tuesday night, I had on my
there was
best
a lot of people
loafers.
Wait, there was a lot of people at the cruising spot or just at the park?
on a Tuesday night. Yeah, well, no, at the cruising spot.
Interesting.
So, like, you know, every park in America,
Yes.
pretty much has like a glorious, like, designated spot
Yeah.
that people kind of learn about, where, like, you have like cover, you know, you can, like,
Yeah, this
sneak
isn't
into
this
a
isn't a
bush.
folklore thing. This is truly like
Yeah, no,
every
this is
park has a
true.
spot where men meet up and do dick sucking stuff and whatever.
Yeah, well, and I remember when I learned this, you know, back in the day
When you were 12.
20
What are we talking about here?
pretty much. But, like, okay, so the first time I think I was like 16, the first time I, you know, learned about like cruising spots. I knew about like hoe spots where you could pick up prostitutes and stuff, but that's
Yeah, it's what's funny is you were the one that taught me that cruising spots were a thing.
Yeah, and so like Green Hill Park in Worcester,
Right.
perfect example. But you have to know. And right, so there's no, because, you know, there's all sorts of safety and legal concerns. You it's like a word of mouth of figuring out. And yes, some of the apps have made it easier to find these things, but, like, you know, there was this culture of it back in the day that was a lot more fun than it is now.
Well, because
know,
you
and I
actually had to meet
attribute-
people in person. There wasn't like a fucking phone in your hand to like find the nearest hole.
Sure. And I think what used to be kind of fun about that was, like, the rules of engagement changed, right? It becomes like a little bit more animalistic, but it was also like you would have a conversation. What do you like to do? If that wasn't your interest, you'd move along. There's an aggressiveness to it now. There's a, like, you're not allowed to talk, you know,
Ew.
like, and you know, and like I've been chided with friends before going to cruising grounds in New York City for talking, like, actually told to shut up. And, like, I mean,
I would end up in a
kudos
fist
to you.
fight. I'd be like, go fuck yourself.
But, like, literally, bitch, you're in a public park trying to get your dick sucked and you're telling me to be quiet? Like, I get it, but, like, my talking isn't going to bring the cops here. You're in the middle of a forest, okay? They're either going to be here or they're not going to be here.
Well, and if
So
there's a
that's-
specific spot, the cops already know what the spot is. Like, let's
Well,
not
and
play
that's-
pretend here.
Right, and that's not the issue they're having. They don't want you to ruin, and that's what I mean. It's all gotten very selfish. I'm here for a specific, like,
Right.
fantasy
My fetish
or
is the only
reason.
fucking fetish that matters in this park. Go fuck yourself.
Exactly. And to me, that follows kind of the behavior of the apps a little bit.
But that's
But
where you should,
unfortunately-
you know what, go do that behavior on an app where there isn't a person in,
Exactly.
where you're not in person with somebody and offending them or upsetting them, or, you know, it's just, it's like
Right.
you can move. It's a lot easier to move on when somebody's like, okay, I'm just gonna block you or swipe you left or however
know.
it works, as opposed to being like, shh, shh, no talking.
Right.
This is a no
Or, like-
talking dick suck zone. Go fuck yourself.
You're in the dark and you can see people are, like, trying to, like, see your face. And I get it. We're all trying to see, like, one another's face. But cruising is kind of about, it's very animal kingdom, you know? Like, the lion goes out to hunt for something and, like, with, like, a more consensual spin to it. But, like, you know, you're there for, like, random strangers. There is no other way around it.
Right.
That's the scene. That's the scene. Like, if you're trying to, like, do a filtering game in the dark, in public, in the bushes, like, this probably isn't the scene for you. But, like, as everything goes, they've made it that scene. So now it's more fun to, like, watch the hunting behaviors. It's like putting on the
okay.
National Geographic channel. Like, some dude walked by, like, 3 times, and every time he would walk by, he would take his hat out, and all these like really cute curls would come out. But like I'm like, is this like what you think the nonverbal signal is? To, like, follow me into the bushes?
I unfurl my luscious locks.
I know, and so it was kind of cute.
That's
in
cute.
that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd be like, aw.
but like
I can
not
only
something that-
imagine. I can only imagine women and femmes like engaging in cruising, and I don't mean like I just mean in general. Like I can't even
Like-
fathom it. I
like
cannot fathom
how would
it.
it work?
It would
like-
just be funny. It would be a lot of like, oh, honey, you're cute, and like walking away.
Well, and that's the energy that it used to be. Like, you know, I look at that and I see how many times he walked by, and I think that person is like not just looking for sex. They have to be like a little bit lonely too, right?
Aw.
You're out here in the dark. You know, you're trying to show off your locks. Maybe you don't want to go to the gay bar because you're not out of the closet yet. I don't know. But it's like,
Maybe it's a
you know,
thrill. Most of it's
maybe.
probably a
But-
thrill, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's this is how we've socialized everybody, you know, like with no instruction manual whatsoever.
Right. It's funny that the unspoken rules kind of change over time, depending
Yes.
on and I would be curious to know like what, I guess it's probably socioeconomics, honestly, because that's what kind of guides the whole world in all the ways. But I think it would be interesting to, I'm sure there's a study on it, but like what, you know, what unspoken rules have changed in the cruising world over time, and based on what, you know, what has determined those quote unquote policies and procedures, if you will. It's just so
Right?
interesting. I think it's so interesting that testosterone is so intense. It's so intense that people literally go to parks in hopes to maybe have a part of their body touched with the end goal of possibly coming. Like that's so intense to me. Like that's so interesting to me, because
Well,
I know
think that-
estrogen, like I know I'm horny. I know it. I know I'm above average horny, but I have, and like maybe I've fantasized about the idea of like going to a park and letting people just take my body and, you know, whatever. But I've never been so overwhelmed by that need that I do it. You know,
Yeah.
like the most I've done is maybe like opened the curtain and let somebody outside see my titties, you know, but I've never been like, all right, have at it. You know, it's just so
Well,
intriguing.
I think there's a 2-pronged component. Like I think that is certainly part of it for some people, but I also think that what I've noticed mostly over the years is people really wanting the simplest, least complicated like interaction for sex. It's a level of mental laziness on some degree.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's something that I can relate to, and I'm sure people with estrogen instead of testosterone can relate to that. But I also like, what is that driving force that, because to me that's still high effort. You still have to leave the house. I don't get that. So there's something bringing your ass there. And it's probably hormones. Let's be for fucking real. Or like whatever.
Sure.
It's a combination. It has to be like hormones and also now like your fetish driving you. And a lot of times people bring their fetishes to those interactions, right? They're like, I want it quiet and anonymous, or I want it whatever. I want to take out my hair and you like my hair, you know, whatever
Right.
it
No,
is.
right. There's definitely like an instant gratification component, like mixed with like, you know, and I'm sure every person there, maybe they're married, maybe they have a partner. I have no idea. You know, a lot of this cruising tends to take place after work, where I feel like the call home is like, I'm working late, you know, or
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to think the basest about people, but like, you know, in my anecdotal experience, when I see those kind of interactions happen, like for me, if I'm doing it, it is for like a testosterone thrill, no doubt. It's like, it's horny, it's exhilarating, yeah, it's uncomplicated, but I don't mind that. I don't have a problem advocating for the kind of sex I want and the kind of people I want to have it with. You know, and I have no problem in a park if I'm not interested in you telling you no, which is, again, not something they like.
I'm sure a piece of it too, like I feel like you were getting there, but I feel like a piece of it is there's a lot of people either living on the DL or not, you know, they haven't come to terms with their sexuality. And so I think, you know, staying off apps, but being able to still fulfill that curiosity or need is probably helpful to the people that are still very much closeted about, you know.
Yeah.
Because nobody's out there taking videos of you. That's one of the unspoken rules. Nobody takes videos of each other while they're there.
Right.
You know.
Right. And that's kind of full circle about the lack of like spaces. The lack of, you know, I get it. We are like one of the most ridiculous hypocritical cultures where like gay bars outside of, or gay bathhouses outside of this country are amazing. They're kept in nice shape. They sell food. They are like shame free.
Right. You know? There should be sexual spaces where you can enjoy yourself in the capacity that you're looking for, with all consent and all fun, and it should be set up with snacks and cleaning places and
social. They used to play piano. They used to have live acts in the bathhouses. That's where Bette Midler got her start.
Right.
She played bathhouses in New York City. Like we're in a position where like our spaces, even though our the tolerance and acceptance, quote unquote, have grown, our spaces have shrunk. And I know that's somewhat about like the need, especially in this country, for assimilating whatever new group is like a target of like spending, right? You know,
right.
$1 billion marriage industry, whatever. The more that you cohabitate, the more things we can sell you, no doubt, you know. But
you can also sell us stuff while we're coming, because coming is very important.
Right. And you know, and I think because for whatever reason, and this is again the shame factor, we're advocating for our right to exist, and we're advocating for our right to marry and adopt and have health insurance together and all that, but we're not advocating very well for our right to fuck. You know, and I'm not saying that heterosexual people have great spaces for that either, but heterosexual people have the kind of default assumption that anybody that they see and meet is a possible mate that they can flirt with, that they can interact with. We don't have that luxury. We don't live in that society yet.
Right.
So if we don't have that, what are we doing to make sure, you know, because like all a bar is a bathhouse with like nowhere to fuck. You know,
and a lot of those bars end up having to have people fuck in their basement, or on the way to the bathroom, or in the bathroom, or in the long hallway.
Exactly. And like, look, you know, there's all sorts of reasons, especially today, that people don't feel comfortable bringing people home to their spaces, either because of like the financial state of the world, they still live at home, or they have 3 or 4 roommates. Like, these things are tough, and if you're a single queer person, especially in a city, you do most likely have roommates, and they aren't necessarily all queer roommates,
right? And they may be weird about hearing you fuck.
Yeah, because I've had many female roommates over the years, and you were the only one that I lived with that I had no issues bringing hookups home. And it was kind of like one of like, I don't think we had like a big pre-discussion. We assumed it. We were both single. We were going to fuck people.
Against each other's doors.
Like, right.
I mean, let's be honest. We moved in together, and I was the perfect age for that, because that especially was like, we were both in our like primal age of like, we just wanted to fuck all the time. Not that hasn't really changed for either of us, but we were in like that prime time in our lives where it was just like, yeah, this is how it's gonna go.
All I used to hear from female roommates, straight female roommates, was, well, what about my safety? I'm like, okay, so you can go to a bar drunk and bring a guy home, and I don't have to worry about my safety. But if I hook up with somebody on an app, you have to worry about your safety.
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, it's a double
You
standard.
you
I'm
have
not
to
saying
you have to think about
everybody
safety
shouldn't
no
worry
matter
about
fucking what. But you're right. The fact that
Exactly.
your other female roommates weren't
It's like,
concerned with your safety, but their own
like you're
instead.
afraid you're gonna get like what, raped and beat up by a gay guy? Like I like what is, you know, like come on, somebody could break in our house like we can live under that kind of culture. But to me, it always felt like the backstory is an uncomfortability with queer sex.
Yeah.
And like that's getting internalized by me or being internalized by society at large. And we shouldn't do that. If we can get married, we can fuck and people can hear us. I'm sorry.
I know.
But,
I
you
haven't had sex in earshot of another human in a very, 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 very long time because I was basically shamed, and then I haven't bounced back. Like a roommate heard me, they were disgusted by it. They were very vocal about being disgusted by it, and ever since then, I'm like, I don't want people to. I don't work when anybody's home, and I haven't fucked a human being in my apartment in what 5 years or something like that.
Who had the nerve? Like, when you were a kid and you accidentally heard your parents have sex, did you like bring it up to them? Like,
Luckily,
on.
I never heard my parents have sex, so thank fuck.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I had a different experience, but
but yeah, like that's the thing is, I don't know. To me, it's you're gonna hear, especially when you're living with roommates in a city, stuff like that. Like you're going to hear all sorts of things that you don't want to hear.
Absolutely.
Put some fucking earplugs in. Like I like listen. I'm not saying that like you shouldn't be aware that you have roommates. Like not everybody wants to hear sex all the time. Okay, I get that. So, but there needs to be some kind of compromise. I'm allowed to be a little loud here and there. And I will also try to quiet down when I realize people are home. And if you accidentally hear me a little bit here and there, don't shame me for it and don't make me feel bad.
Yeah.
And don't literally make me not fuck in an apartment I'm paying an exorbitant amount to live in. We're all paying the same rent here. Why am I not allowed to enjoy myself the way I want to? You know, and that's been an issue for me for a long ass time. Like I can't get over that. Ever since I was shamed, I cannot get over it. I can't.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And it's like, this is a natural human thing that people should be doing to be happy. You should be feeling good that like, you know, the people that you're living with are like enjoying themselves in life. Trust me, depressed roommates are way like worse to like have to fucking navigate. But like, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
I get it. And I get that, you know, again, we are not raised in a sex positive world.
Mm-mm.
We aren't. But like we become adults, we think for ourselves, we understand what our needs are, and all those needs are tailored to you. And like you don't get to please other people's needs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't. And that's all I got to say about that.
All right, Aaron, I'll move back in with you, okay?
That's all I'm asking, girl. I need a good ear to the door. That's all I'm saying. You know, like nothing's more fun than somebody saying like, you know, like a bestie, like that sounded really hot.
We used to have like fuck offs.
Awesome.
I remember there was one night I was getting fucked against your door and then you were getting fucked against my door, and I think the person you were fucking was like, are you sure she's not gonna mind? And then like 10 minutes later I was boning and then you were boning and then we were all moaning and there was a lot going on at once.
Well, because you know, obviously that's the other thing, finding people. Like I've definitely over the years like talked to people that are like, oh, your roommates are home, and I'm like, no, but it's fine. Well, it's not fine for them. And I get it. You have to respect other people's comfortability for sure, you know? And of course, the quintessential cliche, if it's a gay dude, oh, are your roommates gay?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, do we want to turn this into an orgy? No.
Yeah, I don't even know how many. Yeah, I'm in the same boat because I'm bisexual. So it's like, oh, did you want to invite your female roommate? I'm like, you mean the one I consider a fucking family member? Oh yeah, sure. You know, like shut up.
Exactly.
Just because I'm bi doesn't mean everybody in my sphere is default fucking me. For the record, calm down. And I'd actually
not these days anyway.
No, but I've always said, you know, I have developed friendships with people I've had sex with. I have had sex with friends, But for the most part, my core group of friends, I've never fooled around with my friends because I don't not respect, that's the wrong word. I don't see people the same after I sleep with them typically. So it's like I'm very selective about if I'm going to go there with a friend. Has to be a friend.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
So I don't feel my friendship as strong because of the way people handle sex. I often see friendships changing, and not for the better, if sex is introduced. So because of that, I avoid fucking my friends because I don't want to change the dynamic of a special friendship. And
Totally.
I don't have I have a decent amount of guy friends, but like close guy friends, I don't have a ton of those. And there's a reason. As soon as I was actually just going to say this earlier, there's this person that I'm like friendly with that lives in the same city as me, and is always inviting me out to like, hey, let's go to a bar. And I'm like, I always almost go because I need things to do. I don't have a ton of friends to do stuff with. And, I'm a social creature by default. And I'll almost go. And then like 2 days later, like before the thing I'm going to possibly go to, they hit on me. And when I don't know you on that level, right? I don't know how, like, some people might hit on me and they're just being sweet. They're just being like, oh, you look pretty, right? But if I don't know how you actually handle that, I am not 100% comfortable spending my time with a person that I want to just be friends with when they've hit on me. Because now I think that you possibly think you might want to try some shit or whatever. So now I'm put off by it because now I don't actually know if I can just go out and enjoy my time with a friend. Does that make sense? Like I'd much rather rather just go out alone and handle being hit on by strangers than go out with somebody I consider a friend and then worry and have it in the back of my mind that I might have to reject my friend. That stresses me the fuck out. And as soon as somebody who's like, you want to hang out? Is like, hard eyes. Ooh, you look so sexy. Look at that ass. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to be a friend anymore.
I mean, that tracks. And like, look, I probably crossed that kind of boundary more often with friends than like a lot of other people. And it's tricky and it tracks because I have a couple of long-term friends that, over the years, I don't want to say like it's like a last resort fuck, but like if the spirit like moves you and you're both horny and like, you are able to tap into that chemistry with each other, you do. But I definitely noticed with a couple people over the years that like that line like becomes difficult for them because while they may not aggressively or explicitly, I always see the telltale signs like, even like a student like, hey, you want to watch some porn? It's like, I know where this is going,
right.
And like, and I'm comfortable with being like, I love you. I don't want to do that with you tonight. It doesn't mean we'll never do it again. It just means like, and it's tough. It is, once you do cross that line, it converts the possibilities of like, what at least one person or both people think that relationship is capable of.
Sure.
And that, sometimes you just want a friend.
Right. And that's the thing is like, if you're complimenting me as a friend is not the same once I know you and I know, like I have a very good close guy friend who tells me, he'll be like, oh, that hair color looks very pretty on you. And when I read it, I am not reading, I'm going to put my tongue inside of your pussy, bitch. It's because we've established a friendship already. And I know how he rolls and I know he's not interested in me. So if we were to go hang out again, I'm not going to be thinking the whole time, he's going to hit on me. Fuck, I have to reject him. Women have to think about that fucking non-stop. non-fucking stop. So if you are a guy that I haven't actually established that friendship with yet, but you're looking to hang out as a friend, maybe don't fucking hit on me so that I feel comfortable enough to actually go hang out with you. And then if there's chemistry and the vibe is right, then maybe hit on me. Okay? But like I know you, maybe I met you one time at a wrestling thing, or maybe I haven't even officially met you in person yet. Maybe you saw me across the room. Whatever it is, I'm not going to be interested in hitting on you if all I'm going to be thinking about all night long, hanging out with you is if all I'm going to be thinking about all night long is he's going to possibly hit on me because he fucking fire emoji'd every single one of my fucking stories for the last 60 days. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, it's a good point. And like, I wish we lived in a better world where like people can, like, cause usually if I know I'm going to be interested, I will think of a like way to bring it up, not ask for it. I'm not like a big fan, like, hey, can we fuck? But like, be like, I'm feeling a little, horny today. So, if we like end the evening on some porn and like, sucking each other off, I wouldn't complain,
Right.
or like whatever, but like, I'm always the one doing that, like, and it's tough because everybody knows when somebody's laying it on thick trying to get into your pants.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes obvious, and like you are then put in the position of having to turn them down. And like, if you're a person like you and I who talks about sex a lot, is very open, assumptions are sometimes made as well.
Well,
like, this person is always going to be up for it.
Always going to be up for it. Perpetually single. That's another assumption that people have about me. Always. No one asks me my relationship status. They just assume I'm single and open for fucking. And it's so interesting to me. And I'm just like, the reason I am very, very quiet about my personal life now, I wasn't for a long ass time. I'm very quiet about my personal life now because I like watching how people navigate that. I like to see your true colors, because if your true colors are that you are a good person, it doesn't fucking matter whether I'm in a relationship or not. You're still going to be a friend to me, and you're still going to be there for me, and you're still going to,
Right. Yeah.
So I always like, because then I get to see people who like you just said, like they're trying, right? And then you drop on them, oh, XYZ about my situation or whatever, and they're like, oh, like, yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. I thought that's the kind of fucking quote unquote friendship you were looking for, right? Fuck that shit. Right. I like to watch people stumble with that one a lot. It's fun.
One of my first boyfriends, because they had like known. Well, one of my first boyfriend's best friends had known that I had, done some hoeing. And at a party, like, he took it upon himself to, like, proposition me, even though, like, his best friend was my boyfriend, proposition me, like, for sex, because there's, like, an assumption if you're doing sex work, you're gonna fuck. And then when I was like, no, he tried to offer me money. And, like, it's that Pretty Woman moment. Like, when, like, the fucking lawyer dude is like, oh, I hear you're a call girl. Like, I got some money. Let's set up a date, where it's like, what the fuck, man? That's not how this stuff works.
Yeah.
That's not how this stuff works. You should not assume anything. I love sex. There's no fucking doubt about it. I enjoy it. I'm comfortable. If opportunities to have it with somebody I enjoy make themselves available, I will 9 out of 10 times take that opportunity. I mean, our first podcast at where was it? In the Much Obliged TV studios. I went and fucked our podcast guest in the bathroom afterwards. So it's not. Maybe it wasn't the first one. Maybe
I was gonna say, wait, the first one?
No, not the first one. Whatever.
One of them. Yeah. Be careful with being like, absolute about something. I know. All of a sudden, we get a cease and desist. Oh fuck, that's too funny.
Exactly. But
right. Like that's the assumption that it doesn't matter if you are a horny. You could be fucking Samantha from Sex and the City. It does not mean that you are always fucking down to fuck. And it's very rude to assume that just because somebody is a sexual being, sex worker or not, that they are always open and ready for you. fuck off.
Yeah.
I hate
What
that
I will
so much.
say is, in general, I am open and ready to talk about it in a respectful manner.
Yeah, there's
You
nothing
know, like,
sexier than someone ignoring that part of you entirely. Like, the elephant
right.
in the room is my
Totally.
pussy. And if you
Totally.
ignore her, maybe you'll make it wet, right? Like, it's
Right.
just, I don't know. Like, my job is to talk about my pussy, to show my pussy, to lick my own pussy,
Right.
to
Right.
do you
You
really
can lick
think
your own
when
pussy?
well, like, I lick the juices off of myself, like
Oh,
I
nice.
have to, like, nah, maybe when I clock out, quote unquote, every day, I don't want to talk about how my tits lactate with overstimulation.
Absolutely.
Maybe I just don't.
Absolutely.
Maybe I do. But like, the assumption that I'm always ready with my gaping wet pussy open. Fuck out of here with that. It's very annoying.
Totally. Well, and it is reminiscent of like these old guard mentalities. If you're on an app, you're there to fuck. If you're at a bar, you're there to get fucked. I mean,
Right.
I've related the millions of horrors. Like, oh, you're touching me inappropriately. Why are you doing that? Well, you're here, aren't you? Isn't this why you're here? Oh, I thought this was a public space of
Right.
safety.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's giving, well, she was wearing a short skirt, it's giving that same fucking
Exactly.
rapist apology fucking nonsense. It's
It
what it
is.
is.
Yep.
It's all rape
Yeah.
culture, and it's all power, and I you must submit to me because I have something over you, whatever it might be.
I
It's like,
I promise you that sex with either of us in a fully consensual, discussed manner is way more exciting than like rape culture. I promise you. Like,
yeah. And I personally like my rape with consent. So, we can do the rape culture after you're nice.
Yeah. There you go.
And I said that fucked up, but you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
They get it.
and finally, I did want to, before we end this, because I know this is probably like a 3-hour podcast at this point. Somebody brought to my attention, shout out to him. He's a friend. He's listening, I'm sure. And hello. Somebody brought to my attention a new type of porn, which I am now intrigued by, which is, there's an official name for it. God damn it.
Oh my God.
Hold on. I gotta figure it out.
I love when a new type of porn presents itself.
It's not new, but
New to you?
yes, hold on. It is new to me, which hold on, I have to, how do I Google this? This is tough.
Remember when we used to like do our favorite porn picks for the week on Brooklyn Bound Debauchery?
Yes. What have we been watching Wednesdays?
Yeah, I was trying to think of the alliteration.
Yeah, that was the official one. What have we been watching Wednesdays? I love a good alliteration. Okay, it's called time freeze porn, I think. Yes. Or freeze porn. Yeah, so kind of similar idea a little bit. The person clearly knows where my fetishes lie. It's the idea is like there's a scene happening, there's like a thing happening, like public social, like a social thing, like maybe you're in a work conference and then you can freeze time and then you can touch people and stuff. It's very CNC. Yeah. Okay. And I was like, oh, that's kind of hot. Okay, I get it. I see how that's like in the same realm of the shit I like.
Oh my God, that's actually kind of,
it's hot, right? It's like, if you had the ability to freeze time, what would you do with it? Well, I would walk around and suck people's nipples, right? I mean, obviously, again, this is, naughty fetish land. Obviously, this is a very non-consent
kind of
thing,
like
but
consensual visual frauding almost.
Yeah. It's hot. I like it. It's very like the person's asleep, same idea. It's like, you have to suspend your belief, but I fucking like disbelief, but I like that kind of stuff. I like a good role play, and some people are really fucking good at staying frozen. Yeah.
That's
I haven't watched a ton of it. I've watched a little bit of it, but I was like, this is going in my top 10. I think this is
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get better and I don't care what the critique is about this, but I am trying to get better at like reviewing some like more porn, you know, because like I respect, you know, the talent creating some of these visual scenes, and
Yeah.
you know, maybe my imagination is getting stale, but you know, I still love lit erotica. I think it gives you a lot more, but it is difficult to like read on your phone and jerk off, and you know,
Yeah.
it would be nice to you know, see something on the big screen.
Yeah, I've been trying to consume more and like step out of my comfort zone
Yeah.
because I don't really use porn to get off often. However, once in a while I'm like, ooh, I need that scene, that one scene I really like. I need it, you know? So I have been trying to like peruse more types of porn, and this was great. This was an awesome suggestion because that is so in my wheelhouse of things that I would like. I really
So
like it.
next time we talk, I want to have a larger porn conversation.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of things that I've come across with like some interesting narratives about some of these porns, and I really just like, I think it would be a good conversation to have, because you know, there are things that are exciting in porn that like are certainly problematic in reality, and I don't necessarily want to talk about that as much, but I am curious like where the line is on some of these things, you know, and like you know, back in the day, I think it was like, you know, when they were trying to Disneyfy Times Square, there was a, you know, a group that, you know, a feminist group that was like ferociously going around. I think even the Deuce, that show, talked like had the like kind of highlighted their history a little bit. That was really pushing for like, you know, all porn is bad, all porn is exploitive, and of course it was hurting, you know, the people that was their only means for like income,
Right.
you know, and so that in the story it creates an interesting clash between those kind of ideas, you know, the kind of morality, if you will, or the exploitation of porn versus, well, people seem to like it a lot,
Right.
and people make an income off of it. So, you know, and there's a couple of interesting with like more taboo things, and I'm going to save it because I think that'll be interesting. But let's remind me.
Yeah.
in
So
my
your
old age.
homework is to come to the next podcast with 3 different types of porn that are new to you, and I will do the
Okay.
same. So we have to go
Okay.
find 3 types of porn that are new to us, that we've never, like, not ones that we know
All right, love
exist but we
this.
haven't watched, but ones that we've never watched or known to be real. And then let's talk about them, and if we have a favorite clip, we can tell people where to find it and all of that. But yeah, I think that would be awesome because you know, porn is often looked down on because the industry can be awful. We know that, but most
Right.
most working industries are exploitive, and I understand that this is different because we're exploiting human bodies. I get that. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
say that the porn industry is a perfect fucking place. However, it is cool to talk, like, let's try to talk about some positives, and
Yeah.
one positive is exploring fetishes and fantasies. So let's
Exactly.
try to
Absolutely.
stumble on 3 different types and report
Yeah,
back.
because I think we don't have to talk about these things always from like the big brother perspective.
Yeah.
I would talk about it in a consumer, like a real human being way. Like, we know whatever anybody is like posting on their social medias or whatever is the idealized version of how they want to be and who they want to be. But let's talk about on the ground. Like, we're watching porn. What is it? Like, let's talk about it. Why is it exciting? Like, I mean, I am very curious. I like this assignment. I accept.
Oh, and while we're at it, because I do like to give shout outs where due, there is a new porn out right now called hold on, let me get the hold on. I haven't watched it yet and I'm so excited to, just because like yeah. It takes a lot for me to be like, oh, I can't wait to see this porn. You know, like, that's not a thing I say, but I'm
No,
really excited.
right.
Okay. So this is what the fuck is the sorry, I clicked out of the page with the official title on it. Hold on. So it is. Okay. It's Rebecca Godwin and what does he go by on here? Let me just make sure. And Konzo. Konzo is one of my mutuals. He does a little sex work, does a little TikToking, whatever. But it's Rebecca. Is it Goodwin? Am I saying? Oh, this whole time I thought it was Godwin. I'm a fucking idiot. Okay, so it's Rebecca Goodwin and Konzo, and it's Headpool and Wolverine. She's a porn star and producer and etc. She's fucking hilarious. I guess she wrote this. I believe she wrote this and put it together. And he is a hunk, and it looks so funny. And if you're interested in finding this online, you can follow either him or her. It's Becky Mill 1_ on Instagram, or it is, what's Konzo's name on here? It's Konzo0311, Conzo. But you have to watch the preview to this. It's like the fucking funniest thing I've ever seen. And it's a Deadpool it's a Deadpool like porn spoof. It's going to be hilarious. So anyways.
Oh my God.
Anybody that is interested.
I'll put the link in our thing.
Yeah, you have to. I gotta shout out good shit where it exists. And that I've never laughed so hard at a fucking porn parody in my life. It's so funny already. And I haven't even watched it. So so shout out to them.
The only porn parody I ever saw was Edward Penis Fingers.
You saw that one? How was it?
I did. So, long story short, I saw it because my parents had rented it, because on occasion they like to rent porn. And then they went away for the weekend, and it was the first time I was left alone for the weekend. And I had a friend over that I wasn't telling anybody about, and we watched it together, and then he stole it. And I didn't know he stole it.
Oh, shit.
And so I got in so much trouble over it, because in the end, I had to say I had a friend over that stole it. Like, because, so I got more in trouble for the whole, like, having a friend over.
The theft thing. Oh.
Yeah.
I love that. You did not get in trouble. I don't even
remember if they ever got it back, but I know it was, like, something like, I think he gave it to like his older brother, and so like they ended up paying my parents because they had to pay the video store for it. This is when you could rent porns from like the adults only section in the back of the local porn or the local video store.
That's so unfair. The only thing that I've only had like my father's wallet was stolen when I had a threesome one time.
Oh yeah, you got that shit back too.
I did.
Was so.
Oh well,
impressed.
yeah. I mean, you don't fuck with me, baby. Like maybe if I were living in like the city where there's a gajillion people, but like we were in some small town shit. Like absolutely not. I will find you, get the money, and then shame you all in the same breath. Like nice. I let you into my pussy. You are not stealing. Fuck you. Get out of town with that shit.
That's so unfortunate. Beautiful. I love this. So tune in next week for some porn. That'll be fun.
We're gonna do.
We're gonna show each other.
Wait, you want to do live reactions to porn?
Well, like, I mean,
maybe we could put that on Patreon.
Like, I think like it would be great. Like, well, I mean, maybe not live reactions as such, but like if you're able to see what I'm talking about, and then like like a clip of it or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out in the offshoot. But I love it.
All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in. This was a long one today, but sometimes we want it really long and thick and juicy. All right. Bye. See you next week.
Bye.